Well, Will Smith has no idea. Instead of extra innings.
Hey everybody, welcome to Rounding Third. I'm joined by the one, the only, my father. Dad, welcome.
Hello, everyone. I'm anxious to tell our story today about Rounding Third. It's really about the theme of heroes. What makes a hero? It seems to me in modern films, a hero for the most part happens to be like a superhero, somebody who has skills and abilities that other people don't have. Even in sports, we form our heroes on people who have accomplished things that nobody else has done or maybe can do because they're just not physically as gifted. But heroes are not really about accomplishments. They're not about God-given gifts that you have maybe greater than other people. Hero is certainly not about fame. A lot of people are considered heroes today for no reason other than they're famous. Heroes to me are people who do something with no regard to what's in it for them. And I have some baseball examples of that. Starting off with 1942, the best hitter in baseball was Ted Williams. Ted Williams, as World War II started, quit playing baseball in the prime of his career to serve 3 years to serve in World War II as an aviator. He actually didn't see any action. He did a lot of training and got experience. It was a few years later that he then took an additional 2 years out of baseball to go and serve in the Korean War, where he flew 39 missions and was hit, had his plane hit 2 times. So what happens is Ted Williams comes back, and you look at his career statistics and realize 5 years when he was in his prime, age, athletic ability, he didn't play at all. And he did that because he loved the country and he thought that was more important than his personal accomplishments. Same era. Pearl Harbor hits. The very next day, a young man named Bob Feller walked down and enlisted in the Navy. Bob Feller was, I think, 23 years old, but he had been in the majors since he was 19. 3 years in a row, he had been up for most valuable player. He was that great of a pitcher, and he left it all to go fight in World War II as a naval gunner. And he came back, I think, 3 years later, like Williams, and had those years carved out of his final statistics. To them, both of them, that was more important than their personal statistics and ambitions. Now, there's another guy way long before that probably no one is going to know about because it was 110 years ago. There was a player in the old days named Eddie Grant. Eddie Grant was kind of a journeyman infielder. He had some skills. He was a good base runner, stole some bases. Manager John McGraw of the Giants loved Eddie Grant. He was his Craig Counsell or Billy Martin. He just could fill in anywhere, and he helped the team immensely. Mostly, Eddie Grant was known for his leadership ability. He was unlike anybody else on the team. He actually had graduated from Harvard. In baseball at that time, most of the players a lot of them never graduated from high school, and they were playing there. So people would go, they would joke about this, that they would be going out after games, to party and things like that. Eddie stayed home in his hotel room reading books of, get this, Roman law. He chewed the players chewed tobacco and cussed. Grant had a law degree, smoked a pipe, and was never known to cuss. In fact, when a pop fly went up in the air and everybody yells, "I got it," Eddie said, "I have it," because it was more grammatically correct. So he didn't really fit, but everyone liked him. He had great leadership ability. He retired from baseball, became an attorney, and just had been practicing law for a year when World War I broke out. At this time, Eddie Grant was 33 years old and did not have to go into the war. He was too old. Married, 2 children. He said, "This is too important." He went down and signed up and became an officer, stationed in France in 1918 with something called the Statue of Liberty Division. They were assigned the duty to go and rescue what's called the Lost Battalion. I thought of Saving Private Ryan, but they were basically behind line, thousands of soldiers with no supplies in the freezing cold. And their job was to break through the enemy lines and save these soldiers. As it was just about to start, the leaders of the Statue of Liberty Division were killed by gunfire. Eddie, being a captain, was next in line. He stood up and took over the invasion, plotted all the plans, got the people ready to do it. A bomb went off, killing Eddie. The soldiers following his commands went through, broke through the lines, and saved the Lost Battalion. 44 days after that mission, the war ended. Eddie was 44 days from getting out of the war when he died. His major said, "When the shell burst and killed that boy, America lost one of the finest types of manhood I have ever seen." When Eddie died, John McGraw got the news and cried. John McGraw never cried. He got together with a bunch of civic leaders and they made a plaque, which they installed in the polo grounds to honor Eddie Grant. The plaque said, "Soldier, scholar, athlete, killed in action, Argonne Forest, October 5th, 1918. They had a ceremony, the commissioner of baseball came, and they put the plaque in the polo grounds. In 1957, the Giants moved, and the polo grounds was destroyed, and the people went to get the plaque, and somebody had taken it. Later on, they found some guy in Hohokus, New Jersey, who claimed to have the plaque, but when they saw it, it didn't match the photos of the plaque. So it's never really been recovered. However, the San Francisco Giants replicated it and put it in their stadium, where to this day, Eddie Grant is still remembered 110 years later for his heroism, his unselfishness, and his leadership. I think we have always had that kind of definition of hero. It's somebody who puts concern for their own accomplishments, like Williams and Feller, and in Eddie's case, their own life, because something else is more important. These were true heroes. Now, I want to close with this thought, lest we think that a hero has to be a war hero. Willie Stargell, one of my favorite people, he was called a hero and he corrected the person talking to him. He said, "I am not a hero. I'm a baseball player. I play a game." He says, "Show me people who are going out working 40 and 50 hours a week to feed and educate their children. Those people are heroes." It's when we get out of our selfish self and not try to do something for fame or accomplishment, but just unselfishly give to others where we find our real heroes. And baseball is not short on them. There are many more than what I've told you, but this just gives you an idea. And when we think and reflect about what really makes a hero. So that's my story for today. Maybe a little serious, but I think meaningful.
I think that there was that generation with the World Wars, in World War I and World War II, where there you had this concrete sense of duty. I think in World War I, the origins of World War I debated kind of, what were we really fighting over in that one. World War II is a definitive good versus evil with what was going on in those wars, and you had hey, listen, we have got to stand up for people who can't defend themselves. And the world is getting plunged into chaos. I don't know if that exists as much today. You see that, in some sacrifices like Pat Tillman rushing in to join the military, very shortly after 9/11, that type of thing. Story with Eddie Grant, I've never heard of that before. Especially having a family. That kind of brings a lot of that home. And it wasn't like he was a young kid when he went either. He was definitely older. But I think like one of the things that, struck me when you talked about Stargell's quote, I think so much today, especially with like the social media generation, we get so caught up in the fact that this person's doing this great thing or this person's doing that great thing. We miss that everyday struggle in our lives. And to have a sense of gratitude for the people in our lives and to be able to express that gratitude to those people who sacrifice in order to make our life to be able to live the lives the way that we do, the people who sacrifice so that we can have the education that we have, the people that sacrifice just to put food on the table, to have a roof over our heads, to keep the family stable, to be able to just sacrifice to have the things that we have. And so on that note, Dad, thank you for being a hero.
I haven't thought about it that way, but you're welcome.
I think Todd makes, that they're 100% correct about that quote from Mr. Stargell. That's a really a true testament. And everyone's trying to, in today's era, make a splash, change things. I want to change this. For those that just get up every day, put their clothes on one leg at a time, just like a normal human being, like everybody else, and just efforts, try to be a better father, better husband, better wife, better mother, really be there for their kids. I think that in all reality is something that's missing. It's great when I see parents that are involved in their kids' lives and helping them with their future and helping them kind of decide and see what kind of layers that they can experience in this life. This life has a lot to offer. There's a lot out there that you can get to. And as a father in today's era, it's really easy to just turn that off and to not be engaged. So for the parents that are, about to take their kids to some baseball playoff games here, parents who are about to spend that 3-4 hours with their kid, watching them on TV, really enjoying that time together and really connecting. In a lot of ways, that was something that we as young men watched, young men watched our parents and were able to connect with them, because it's very hard to connect to your father. He's working all this time. He's married. He's got bills stacking up here and there. And it's very hard to relate when you have all that kid-like hope with your parent, with your father. So I agree with Todd. Thank you, Dad, for all that you gave us and all that, the wonderful exposing the show behind the curtains, exposing what's possible. And it doesn't need to be the person in front of the stage. There's plenty out there to get done and to be very proud of outside of that. So
I appreciate the comments. I think that all of our listeners, I think this is kind of a serious thing, which we don't always do, but I think you need to reflect on your life, who the real heroes are. And they're not often the people we're cheering for on Sunday afternoons or watching get famous and rich on social media and things like that. You got to ask yourself, who are the people really laying it down so that we can have a better world? And we have them in our lives. And occasionally just go to them and say thank you would be a good thing to do.
I think also taking a look at the people you come across every day. And I think a lot of times we think about and we look at the people and we say, oh, this person's different from me from one reason or another. You don't know who that person is a hero to or what they're struggling through in order to be a hero to that person. And I think if we look at other people and we try to say, okay, so who is this person a hero to and who are they trying to be a hero to? It might be really simple and just, I think just kind of recognizing that in other people.
We can end it on one of the thoughts that I've heard before. I can't remember who said this, but a compliment costs nothing and not giving it out is criminal.
That's great.
If you see somebody and you want to acknowledge that person and you just say, I didn't do it, or I meant to do it. Oh, I should say thank you. And you don't find the person to say thank you. And to dive a little bit deeper, we're all adults, and there are teachers, there are parents, obviously, that impacted adults' lives in one way or another. Going back and thanking that person is much easier today than it's ever been. And offering that compliment of, hey, when I was in this tough time and I was in a decision made and I needed to see something. For me, I mean, I had a wonderful professor at the university I went to. He is no longer with us. But I was able to thank him for all of his hard work, all of his dedication to helping me graduate, helping me achieve what I needed to achieve, and spending a lot of his sacrificial time. Dr. Salters was a fantastic man and passed away several years back to cancer. But again, there's people in your life that impacted. And if you're not if you're not appreciating them at the time, maybe you aren't even realizing it. When you reflect on it 10, 5, 2 years, doesn't even matter. It's real easy to go back and say, because of you, you really helped. You really showed me a different layer to life that I never thought could be expected. So Dad, thank you. Todd, thanks for being a great older brother. Can't thank you enough. Thanks for choosing the teams to not cheer for. I really appreciate that. It was fantastic of you. You really showed me what not to do.
Thank you for being you.
Absolutely.
Oh, God. Thank you for being you.
That's our show, folks. That's Rounding Third. I hope you have a great time. Feel free to comment and put down some folks that really impacted your life. Tell us some stories of folks in college, whether it's high school, college, your parents, whatever it may be. Send them a shout out, and we'll be happy to comment and reply. As you can tell, we're doing this podcast, and you can tell from my perspective, Dad had a huge impact on our lives. That's why we're here. And I get to share some of the stories and peel back some of the layers of the things that impacted him, which mean a ton to me as we move on in our lives. So thanks for joining us. I appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.